Hey, what's up guys? Guardian here, coming to you guys with a brand new deck profile today, and today we're going to be doing a deck profile on Magus for OTT. So I did pick up OTT as a clan to have as a protect deck. I got rid of Grand Blue last year. I kind of fell off with that clan. But yeah, OTT interested me. Magus was the deck that kind of made me want to build the clan and collect everything for it. So I've actually pretty much got the collection sorted now, and I'll do a video of that in the future. But yeah, Magus was the deck that kind of interested me because I felt like it was a very fun deck. I know that Magus isn't particularly good by any means, like to a good standard, but it's a fun strategy, and I quite like the way the deck is. Maybe they might throw some like a couple of support cards, like one or two like commons or rares in the future for the deck. Not too sure. There's definitely room for improvement, but yeah, we'll get to that in the future, hopefully. But yeah, we'll go into the deck and I'll show you guys what I'm playing in this. I'll probably bring a Tsukiyomi deck some point in the future as well, but we'll start with Magus. So, to start with, we have the main unit of the deck, I would say, which is going to be 4 copies of Pentagonal Magus. This card is pretty fun to play. It's actually it's actually the reason that I like this deck. Not only is her artwork really cool, like I like the way that she's positioned on the card and the colors on her just really pop out, but she's just got a fun skill. And I think it's just really cool. So she gives your triggers an extra 5k power whenever you reveal them from your drive checks. And the second skill, of course, gives you basically 5 drive checks during your turn. You need a Soul Blaster grade 3, and you need to discard 5 cards from your hand. But that discard cost is reduced by 1 for every front row rear guard Magus that you have. So you, of course, want to make sure you've always got 2 Magus in the front row. So yeah. But yeah, she's really cool. The extra power gain that she gives to all your triggers really amplifies the overall power this deck can generate. And yeah, sometimes it hits like a wet fish, but other times it really hits like a truck, and it's quite fun. So yeah, but playing 4 of her just because she's kind of like the win con of the deck. She's kind of what the deck's based around and how Magus kind of works. So I've seen builds where they play 3 of it, but I'm much more of a fan of 4 just so I can see it as quick as I can, and maybe get some rerides of her as well to get the additional grade 3s to Soul Blast. But yeah, she's the win con, so it makes sense for me to play 4. And then for other grade 3s, because we want to have a good, a decent enough grade 3 to ride before we go into the Pentagonal Magus, we're also playing the 3 copies of Hexagonal Magus. So this one, when it's placed on Vanguard, you can counterblast to look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put them back on top of the deck in any order, and then draw a card. So gives you a +1 for a counterblast, potentially stacks a trick on the deck, pretty nice. But the main reason I like this card, as well as the next card, which I'll show you now, which is 3 copies of Fusilli Magus. This one came out with set 5, the same set for Ganslot. And I like both of these units because they both have van and rear skills. So they're both flexible on rear guard once you get into the Pentagonal Magus. So yeah. But the rear guard skill, well, the van and rear skill of Hexagonal is that when you reveal a trigger, she gets an additional 5k power. And Fusilli Magus works on Van or Rearguard, and she has 1 skill, which is once per turn, you can Counterblast and Soul Blast. Give one of your Vanguards 10,000 power and an extra drive check this turn. Yeah, you need to have a Magus Vanguard, so of course she's built for this deck. So that's really cool. She's basically a +1, but it's good because it's giving you it's giving you the +1 in the form of a drive check, which just benefits the the ability of Pentagonal Magus. So that's pretty cool. But I feel like 6 alternative grade 3s is a good enough ratio to ride one of these first and then go into the Pentagonal in the late game. So yeah, that's what I decided there. And like I said, I like the fact that these 2 come with rear guard skills, so they're like flexible outside of the Vanguard circle. Because of course you will be going into this and only this in the late game. So there you go. So for grade 2s, we are going to go into the 4 copies of the trial deck grade 2, where Hexagonal came from. 4 copies of Rectangle Magus. So very similar skill, if not exactly the same, but she only works on rear guard. So when she's placed, you counterblast, soul blast, look at top 2, put them on top of the deck in any order, and then draw a card. So yeah, more potential stacking, gives you a plus, pretty good. And the second skill is when you drive check, reveals a trigger. she gets 5k power. So she can actually get really, really big. Like one trigger will put her up to 24,000 if you decide to put the trigger power on her. But this is where Magus kind of shines, because you then got to bear in mind effects like Pentagonal, which will give you the extra 5k. So now she'll become 29 on her own. And then let's say you have an 8k booster behind that, that's 37. So one trigger has already allowed you to generate so much extra power that you're really hitting for big numbers now. Which is why I kind of say this deck can sometimes hit really weak, but then other times it hits like a massive truck, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So yeah. So playing 4 of her. I'm not planning to use all 4 of them in the game, but I do want a high enough ratio of them so I can actually use it. To some extent, maybe like once or twice, maybe 3 times in the game, maybe. But with the Counterblast and the Soul Blast, that's also the same cost for Fusilli Magus. So yeah, you kind of want to be careful with your resources and what you're spending it on. So yeah. So 4 copies of Rectangle. She's pretty much kind of like the best grade 2 Magus that we have available anyway. So yeah. But then we have 4 copies of Rhombus Magus. So this one is essentially a 14k attacker. So when this unit attacks, if you have a Vanguard with Magus in the card name, until the end of the battle, this unit gets 5,000 power, so 14k attack. And if that Vanguard is a grade 3, your opponent cannot intercept. So the cool thing is that this can hit any number against Force, Excel, Protect. Doesn't matter. She can hit on her own, but they can't just like throw away a interceptor that they don't need anymore and just forget about the attack. So it has the potential for them to drop something from their hand that maybe they don't have a low enough shield to, guard this really easily. Maybe they might guard with a 10k or a 15k to stop it. But yeah, it's not great, let's be honest, but it's something at least. It has the potential to take away extra shield, which I like. It can hit on its own, which I like. So yeah. And the most important factor, of course, it's a Magus name. Kind of have to work with what we have. But she's okay. But this is probably one of the cards that could potentially see an upgrade in some point in the future, I hope. But we'll just have to see what they do. But I do hope they go back and give like 1 or 2 cards to like older decks to help them out a little bit. So then we have the last grade 2, which is probably my favourite one in the deck, if I'm being honest, which is 3 copies of Ravioli Magus. So this card was a common that came out with set 5, same set as this, and it's pretty simple. Whilst on rearguard, once per turn, when your drive check reveals a trigger unit, she gets 10,000 power. So it is once per turn, so it can't stack, but 10k is pretty good, because you're essentially turning 1 trigger into the power of 2. So 1 trigger check is the same value total as 2 of them. And it just comes back to, you can go from just a really small number to all of a sudden really big numbers. Like you can get towards like 40,000 plus sometimes out of nowhere. And yeah, it's pretty cool because the opponent just sees like the flat base numbers initially, and then they'll have to sort of try figure out what numbers you're going to be reaching after the drive checks. So then they have to work around, right, how many triggers should I expect? How much power allocation should I expect? How much overall power is going to be on the field for me to block? It's very tense sometimes. And the thing I really like with the Ravioli is that because it can reach those really big numbers, she's really good for the late game, which is why I like her at 3 copies, because she doesn't... The thing is with big numbers in this deck is that your opponent can just no-guard them easily and just not care about it. So they really don't... It really doesn't shine that well in the early game, but in the late game, it's really, really good, because that means your opponent has to guard like whatever they can in order to survive. So I really, really like that. So although the effect is once per turn, I still think it shines in the right situation towards the later stages of the game. So yeah. So we'll go into the grade 1s next. We have another trial deck card, which is 4 copies of Cuore Magus. This one, pretty simple, is when it's placed on Vanguard, look at the top 2 cards of your deck and then put them back in any order. So it's pretty simple, but it essentially just does what we need to do in OTT, which is to sort of stack our deck, try line up the triggers so that our Magus cards can actually go off, get those power gains, and also it's really good for the early game as well. Good ride target, potentially set you up for like getting a ride chain going, getting the grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 going. And yeah, it's just good setup, and it kind of helps you with getting those triggers stacked so you can actually, get the effects going. Now, The next grade one, which is probably one of the best cards in OTT, I think. I think all the builds play this, which is 4 copies of Tetra Magus. So this, I'm not too sure on the price of this card. I haven't actually checked yet. I've been meaning to do so for a while. I'll probably do it after we record this, but yeah, this card, insane. When it's placed on rear, if you have a Vanguard that's grade 3 or greater, you can counterblast 1 to draw a card, and then reveal a critical trigger from your hand, and then put it on the top of your deck. So, it's a counterblast 1 for a +1, that's pretty decent on its own, but it's stacking crits on your deck from your hand. So you break even, so you don't get the plus, but you're getting the critical trigger guaranteed, which is pretty effective, especially when you're looking towards like potential attacks that could go for lethal. If you get the power like really high and then put the crit on it as well, your opponent has to be aware of that, and they might have to give up like a PG or just a large amount of shield to stop it. And yeah, it gets even more pressurizing when you have like 5 drive checks coming in from the Pentagonal Magus. So yeah, and also that's the other thing, is that trigger is going to get extra 5k from her continuous skill as well. So yeah, there's a lot of it's a very simple skill on its own, but it's just really powerful, and I can't see this card never being useful. Like I said, I think most other OTT decks play it in some fashion. So yeah, it's just even more of a beneficial, the fact that this card's a Magus card as well, so it's brilliant. So yeah, you just have to play 4 of it. But yeah, I'm going to check the price of this card after, because I actually don't know how much it's worth. With Protect Clan's not doing too much over the past, I don't know, half a year roughly. I can't remember what the last relevant Protect deck was. Probably Grand Blue, I think, or maybe DI. I'm not too sure, but I'll check afterwards. But the last grade one I'm playing is a pretty fun one. This is also from set 5, which is Penne Magus. So this one is actually pretty cool, because the thing that this gave the deck, which it didn't have in set 3, this card basically becomes a really cool Vanguard booster. And the reason I say that is that the skill is when your drive check reveals a trigger, she gets 5k power. And it's not once per turn. So the cool thing I like is that if you use this to boost your Pentagonal Magus, you're attacking them for a 20k attack, right? But then they have to think, right, one trigger will bump that up to 30, but then you're getting 5k here and here. So that's now 40,000 power from one trigger. So then if you get a second trigger, that's 60,000 potential power that you're going to get. So yeah, the Vanguard can get really huge with this as a booster. Which I really like, because, you know, a 20k attack's just nothing, but this makes it something, because it's just going to turn it into really big numbers that the opponent has to deal with at some point, you know? So, yeah, I quite like it as a 2-of. I only really like using it as a Vanguard booster, but it is okay as a rear guard. I mean, these don't really do anything after their own play skills, so yeah, it's got some external use to it for the rears, I suppose, as well, but I mainly like using it for the Vanguard. And the last grade one in the deck is just going to be 2 Gemini. This is just to help you with resources, generating them back. Countercharge and Soul Charge is really costly in this deck. There's a few that do it. But even if I put this into the Soul to get the countercharge, it gives me basically Fusilli Magus' skill for free. I mean, yeah, I'm taking a minus, but then getting a plus back, so I'm breaking even, but I'd rather do that and have the extra drive check, knowing that could be a trigger to get the additional power gain from things like Pentagonal Magus. And yeah, it just gives those drive checks. So I don't mind running the 2 Gemini just to help with resource management. And yeah, besides that, we have the grade 0s. So we have the 1 copy of Lozenge Magus. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that up, but you know what I mean. So 1 copy of her. I decided to use the one from this from set 1 just because I think it looks a bit nicer than the reprint that I got from the trial deck. So yeah, playing 1 copy of that. And then I'm playing a pretty basic lineup of 8 critical and 4 draws, 4 heals. I mean, it's nothing special, but yeah, I do like the alternate artwork of the Psychic Bird, and yeah, of course, I just wanted to feel like using the newer triggers that came out in set 5, being the Ginger. But it's a very basic trigger lineup. There's nothing too special. One thing I will say is that your heal trigger is actually a Magus card. So if you do need the Magus name, like if you're really clutching straws and you need that extra name, bear in mind that she is a Magus card. So yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, I probably will do a Tsukiyomi deck, potentially before Susanoo comes out. But I did want to start off OTT on the channel with Magus just because it's one of those fun decks that doesn't really see a lot of play competitively, I don't think. But yeah, I mean, I picked it up, I enjoy it, and yeah, I did get the other stuff, so I could do deck profiles for that as well. And of course, looking forward to Susanoo when it comes out. And yeah, this is my Protect clan for the time being. And like I said, it's also cool that they're all part of the United Sanctuary as well. I do like that aspect as well. But yeah, that's going to do me, guys. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like the video if you liked it. Comment down below. Tell me what you think. And like always, I will catch you guys in the next video. So take care, guys, and I'll catch you guys next time. This is Guardian, signing out.